Age of Empires 4 is a new RTS game, but with an old RTS style of play, leaning heavily on strong build orders, actions per minute, and an intensive micro to help ensure victory across the gamut of challenging opponents you come across. If you're just getting back into the series, you might find yourself a little out of your depth when it comes to even fighting against the AI. I know I booted up a game against the intermediate AI when it first came out and got my ass whooped like I was a 12-year-old playing against my older brother. In this video today, I want to go over some quick early build orders to help you get the upper hand in bringing your economy online quickly in Age of Empires 4. We'll start out by going over the basics of build orders and what you focus on and moving through the first to the second age. After that, I'll jump quickly over to each civilization, talking about a loose build order for each. While the objective is the same for each civ, how they accomplish it and the unique mechanics their faction benefits from makes their build order slightly different. Now, I do have a series that focuses on a guide for each civilization that I'm trying to finish, and you can find that linked at the end of this video. I go in more depth in those videos, but this should at least give you a good starting point of where to do or what to do whenever you're playing each one of the factions or civilizations. And you can navigate to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in the timeline and the description. Also, if you end up enjoying the video, please don't forget to like, comment, and/or subscribe. Each one of these helps me out in varying degrees, and I can't thank you enough for supporting the channel. Let's get started on a guide to early build orders in Age of Empires 4. So here we are in the game with just an English start because this is going to be the most standard version of everything because it's pretty laid out, and we'll go into individual ones later like I've said. So what you really want to do first is put all of your villagers onto harvesting sheep. And that's kind of a bit of a no-brainer for a lot of people, but here's why this is important. You want to get your food economy online as quick as possible because the objective in the first age, above everything else, again depending on your more advanced tactics and everything of the sort, is advancing to the second age. So you need 400 food and 200 gold. Nothing as far as construction wise goes will cost you gold in the first stage, so that's a little bit easier to get to that 200 cap and maintain. But food, on the other hand, will constantly be drained from you because you'll be producing villagers. So you have to be able to outpace the production of your villagers by the amount of food you're bringing in. So your first order of business is setting all of your villagers onto sheep immediately. Then you're going to click on your town center, right click on this. You see a little blue flag come up. That means that they're going to be on the thing to actually harvest. You're going to press Q and just get some villagers out. Now, what you should also be doing is use your scout and grab more sheep. So we're going to wait for that villager to come out. I'm going to show you what we're going to do. But basically what we want to do, what the hell is this sheep doing? I'll explain that little crux in just a second here. So this villager is about to come out. It was just made. We're going to take this villager and build a house. Now, if you look at the time to make a house, it cost 15 seconds. To make a villager, it cost 20 seconds. So by constantly being ahead of your production, in the sense that you are using your newest villager to make your next piece of production, it allows you to maintain the amount of resource production you're doing. So this guy will just bring him back onto this, and with our next villager, we're going to be able to put him onto something else. Now, why it's important to do this is that you want to make sure that you never push into what's called a supply block. You never want to get to the max amount of supply you've got. And this new villager that just came out, we're going to make a mining camp down here. And we're actually going to take our town center and bring it over here. And you always want to be producing your villagers. And I've broken this up, so obviously this is not the maximized, min-max way of doing this. I'm explaining every little thing, so I just want to make sure it's distinct for you guys. So you want to take your scout, though, while this is going on, and you want to pick up sheep. And when you get the sheep, you'll bring them back to your town center, and you'll see this little crook. You'll right-click it, and it will then keep your sheep tethered to whatever it is. It could be a mill, it could be a mining camp, whatever. But you're just going to kind of want to wander around the map in this early portion really quick, just in your immediate area, to find either one of two things. More sheep that you'll then bring back, and you see we're already going to exhaust that sheep pretty quickly. Oh, here's another one right here. Or your deer hunting camp. If that's very close to your base, you're pretty much cleared to make a mill and go ahead and just hunt the deer instead. But the sheep are a really nice little early source of food income, and in fact, they're probably one of the only ones. Now, while I've been doing this, I have not been focusing on my town center to make more villagers, but basically what you want to do here is get 4 people on gold and about 8 to 10 on food. This is going to maximize the ability to progress to the next stage. And getting those sheep as close as you can to the actual town center helps maximize the gather rate, because the villagers don't need to walk as far. Now this next villager, we're going to make him do a lumber camp. Now while lumber is not crucially important here in the first age, it will become extremely important in the second age. And you do not want to be behind lumber production, because this will allow you to actually make buildings in the second age. And we're going to go ahead and right click here. So pretty much anytime you make another production building, you want to set the town center to go ahead and harvest that new production building, just for a couple villagers, not a whole ton. In fact, we'll probably only do 3 or 4 on wood there. But now again, just hold shift, right click around the map, and just send your scout and just like either a figure, I like sometimes do a figure 8 or an S all the way up the map, or I'll just do a constant spiral that spins out from my my realm. And again, just make sure you're constantly producing villagers. And that's pretty much the short and narrow of how to do your early build come the first into the second age. Now you can see here, we've hit what we've got to do. We've gotten 400 and 200 of food and gold. And you see this symbol up here? When you hit that actual resource cap, you'll hear a symbol, or I'm sorry, a sound, and the little circle will spin around the symbol, like a woof, 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 and it'll spin around. Like, oh, we've done it. So take 3 villagers, and again, you probably want to maximize the one that's coming out plus 2 more. It's probably safe to take 1, 2, 3. And we'll go ahead and just make, it doesn't matter for what we're doing right now, I'm just making one to talk about it. But we'll go ahead and progress ourselves into the third age. Now, or second age, sorry. You can put as many villagers as you want, but you still want to make sure you're producing. That's pretty crucial here. And depending upon the faction you are playing as, you want to make sure that you're producing a specific resource, which we'll go into in that respective faction's breakdown. In fact, we've got some more sheep. Let's go ahead and just bring these back real quick. And we can go ahead and make a mill over here and start getting some deer online. Now, what I would do too is be wary, you know, see, take a look. We definitely have enough food. I haven't been producing my villagers, and we're starting to get to a point where we're going to need that wood, and our wood is very low. So we're going to make another house real quick because we're coming to that supply cap. But this, I mean, this is a quick little like 6-minute breakdown of every single faction's early build. This is what you want to do. After this, it's going to come down to how is your opponent playing? What kind of map are you on? What faction are you playing? Everything after this point is going to become pretty different. But this is essentially what you want to do for every single faction. Ensure you're producing villagers. Have your villagers go on to food. With each new villager, have them build the next step in your first age progression, whether that is houses, your mining camp, or your lumber camp. Whatever it is, have them go ahead and do that. And once you kind of have all that done, you'll get into the second age and you'll be free to start producing military buildings. And depending upon which faction, you'll make anywhere from 1 to 3 military buildings in that second age. And you'll produce a specific resource that's going to help you. A good example would be French. So if I'm playing as the French, I'm going to want my villagers to be mainly doing more gold than, say, maybe wood, because the French units cost a substantial amount of gold. But converse to that, if I'm, say, playing the English, I would have my units, or I'm sorry, my villagers doing less gold and more food and wood, because the English longbowman, as you can see, requires food and wood. So that's just kind of your basic breakdown of a build order coming from the first into the second age. Now let's go into some details about how this can work when it comes to specifics of each civilization. So our first example here is going to be for the English, something that we already kind of went over, but basically, like I was saying before, you want to focus very heavily on that wood and food for the early production. Now, please keep in mind, for all this, it is really going to depend upon how your enemy decides to rush against you or what units they use. So some of these build orders might kind of have to adapt, but this is to give you a general sense of what's going to work for, say, well, the English in this case. So following the same kind of basic build order, right? We've got all of our villagers trying to get up on them sheep asses and then trying to pop a couple of houses up. We've already moved into a mining camp, stuff like that. The typical kind of build order sequence. And once you kind of get this all set up, what you want to work on is one big crucial thing. Like we said before, you need 400 food and 200 gold to get up to the second age. Well, in the second age, the English are not going to benefit from a huge gold economy as much as they will from a stronger food and wood economy. Like a point I've made now 3 times. So what you want to do is get your gold in the first age to 275 or so, and then switch off of gold. 275 is what you need because 200 is going to get you into the next age, and then you can do the build a camp or set up camp technology for the longbowmen. It's going to cost 75 gold and some other resources, and this allows your longbowmen to heal in the second age. This is really nice because it keeps some longevity attached to them before you get access to priests, which will heal your units. So doing this is crucial because after you set up that gold economy or set up that 275 gold, you take everyone that's on gold and put them onto wood. This way you then again are monopolizing your food production and your wood production coming into the second age. So once the second age gets kicked off, you can get some longbowmen out on the field very quickly. And even though longbowmen really shine against stuff like your spearmen and other lightly armored units, the sheer mass and the sheer production of the amount of longbowmen you can create can just take something down by weight of numbers. You can kill a war elephant very easily using a mass of longbowmen, which are extremely easy and cheap for you to produce. So once you get into the second age as the English, what you again want to do is maybe make a second archery range so you can maximize the production of your longbowmen, but the the council hall is really going to make it so that you can get longbowmen out very fast at 7 seconds per longbowman, which is so good. And getting another barracks online would allow you to get some spearmen that can help maybe take advantage of any kind of cavalry rushes that you might be getting. You can use the spearmen to kind of negate that a little bit. But really, that's the kind of quick breakdown here for the English. I would get a blacksmith online so you can get some ranged damage bonuses in there from the blacksmith. But that's really what you want to do. After you've set up all those things, you'll want to get your gold economy back online, of course. But this just gives you a nice early bump to getting some quick longbowmen out. And then down the line, you probably want to work on some stone production because of the keep bonuses that the English get. And then, of course, in the third and fourth age, you're probably going to switch over to a farming economy, and then the fourth age get those enclosures for the farms to really just let your gold economy take off. So again, focusing very heavily on wood and food is going to be crucial to success for the English. Our second civilization is going to be the French that we're going to talk about here, and it's going to look very similar to the English. Again, it's going to follow that same exact build order. Get those villagers onto those sheeps, get some houses out, start working on your mining camp. Now, mining camp is going to be a bigger focus here for the French than it would be for the English because, like I've said before now, when it comes to the French, your big unit production is going to be coming out of your Royal Knights, your Hulks if you're on, say, a island map, or your Arbalists in the latter ages, and those all cost heavy amounts of gold and wood to produce, or gold and food, depending on the unit. Like I said, Hulk is going to be a lot more wood versus the other two is going to be a lot more food. So as you get that second mining camp up, you're going to want to set a lot of villages to that. You can actually push a little bit higher than I think I did in this example. You could probably be more comfortable at 5 or 6, but you do still want to get some wood online because you're going to need to build the buildings that will enable you to do some damage as the French. Now, in the English, remember how we kind of focused off of gold production as soon as we hit 275? That is definitely not going to be the case here for the French. You just want to maintain that gold economy income. And the more you do that, the easier your second age is going to be. And I actually would even throw another villager or two onto getting up to the second age just to get some early knight harass out quickly. The nice thing about the French is, of course, you do get access to Royal Knights, which we've talked about before, but those Royal Knights have the ability to heal themselves much like the English longbowmen do. So if you get a knight out and you get the technology then to have it passively regenerate if it's out of combat, you can take 1 or 2 knights and go and easily harass the economy of your opponent and help give you a little bit of a timing push. Timing push is, of course, using any kind of military or economic advantage to push against your enemy as you've tried to push against them economically or, well, militarily. So Getting yourself ahead of the enemy there is really crucial, because once you get into the second age, you're probably going to want to make a school of cavalry to get you into the second age, which will act as your stables, which is very nice, get you that nice Royal Knight production quickly. And then I would actually make an archery range, because then if you've got the House of Cavalry and an archery range, you can produce both the bowmen, or your archers, which are going to take out any spearmen that are used to counter your cavalry, and then your Royal Knights, of course, will be able to kill pretty much everything else in the second age with relative ease. But after that, the one thing you do want to make sure you make is a blacksmith. Remember, the French do get free weapon upgrades as they progress from each age, but they will not get them if the blacksmith is not produced. So make a blacksmith. It's going to get you each and every subsequent melee upgrade. And then from there, just kind of make sure your gold economy is on point and boost as you need, as per your enemies, how they're rushing you, what kind of approach they're taking, so on and so forth. Because I think, like I said before in all these sections, really, this first portion leading up to this point is going to be relatively the same. Then after that, you're going to have to modulate your tactic based on how your enemy's producing aggression against you. Now, our last of the more standard factions is the HRE, the Holy Roman Empire. And like with the French and with the English, you're going to approach this very much the same way. You're just simply going to have all of your villagers onto the sheep, make your house, then make your mining camp to start getting some gold production online while your scout finds more sheep. But one thing I would say about that scout finding more sheep, try and find as many as you can, and I'll explain a little bit as we progress into the second age here. But getting as many sheep as you can for the Holy Roman Empire is nice, because you'll then be able to use it around a specific building. So the Holy Roman Empire gets access to a prelate, or a prelate, whichever one you want to pronounce it as. And this prelate will give you a 40% bonus to the gathering rate of your villagers as a little actionable icon. You press it, you click on a villager, boom, bam, boom, there you go. But it costs you 100 gold to get this unit out in the first age. And in the first age, that's basically a really hard sell, right? You need 200 gold to get to the second age. You might as well just kind of keep producing and get to that second age. And the reason behind this is, once you get 200 gold and 400 wood and you're ready to progress to that age, you get access to a specific palace. Now, you've got the ability to make a landmark that is a blacksmith for the HRE, but the other one, the Aachen Palace, or Aachen Palace, is really good because it allows you to garrison a prelate in it, and it will give that radius, that bonus as a radius rather than a specific unit. So this allows you to spend 100 gold and get way more use out of it. So the way you want to build this thing is right up against where your wood and your gold production is. Hopefully they're kind of next to each other as a result of the map's placement, but I would try to make it so it can at least attach to two different food production sources. Either a mill that you place next to it that you then herd all of your sheep next to, and then food or wood. Because that's what I was saying, is you get the sheep because the sheep will allow you to have a resource that you can maneuver around and have food being produced wherever that Aachen Palace is. So that, I think, is the big approach there with the HRE, is getting that thing to double up, if not even all three of your resource productions. I got pretty lucky in this example here, and I was able to get food and gold and wood all wrapped up. I mean, you can get stone in there too if you want to hard tech into some stone and get some keeps going and some stone walls fast. But really, what really allows your economy to boom as the HRE is that 40% gather bonus. Now, after you've done that, once you've progressed into the second age, your big objective as the HRE is really to get men-at-arms online. Now, keep that in mind too, as the HRE, people will know you have access to men-at-arms in the second age. And the only other faction that can do that is the English. So expect a lot of counters to that very quickly. And that means that, sure, you can get a ton of men-at-arms out and a lot of men-at-arms and spearmen, because the spearmen will help to essentially kill off any knights that are trying to kill your men-at-arms, while the men-at-arms will absorb a lot of the range fire of, say, longbowmen and the such. It's not until crossbowmen that they're really going to see much of a huge deterrent. So You can kind of mix these two together, maybe even making another archery range to kind of add some archer range power to your infantry fighting force. Just depends on what you want. But what I would also say, and something I forgot to mention, is make sure you time the production of your prelate in line with the end of your second age. The beginning of your second age. This allows you to have your prelate immediately garrison the chapel and start providing a bonus. If it doesn't happen right away, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm just saying, as you get better and better and more used to microing certain little tiny things here and there, that's something that you can do. That's pretty minor, but it'll allow you to really kind of stack up your bonuses quickly rather than waiting for the building to be produced and then make your prelate, or again, prelate, whichever you want to pronounce it as, and put them into the building, right? You'll just get a little bit more benefit out of it. And you can even make an extra one to help out with other resource gathering here and there. But once you really get 2 barracks online and you're producing men-at-arms, that's going to be the way to really kind of take off as the Holy Roman Empire. Then once you hit into the 3rd and 4th ages, you'll be able to research the ability to get maces on your men-at-arms, which will allow them to do damage to heavy knights, which can oftentimes be used as a strong counter against men-at-arms. But that's the kind of essential breakdown of HRE as it kind of comes from the 1st into the 2nd age, focusing a lot on trying to get as many sheep so you can get a big inspire bonus, and also make sure you do keep your gold economy strong, but doesn't need to be as strong as the French. A men-at-arms per unit is only 20 gold, so it's not that substantial compared to, say, all the other French units, which are pretty much in excess of 100 gold. So hopefully that helps you get started here with the HRE. Our 4th civilization is the Rus, and this is where things are going to get a little bit different. So with the Rus, you're going to have this standard build order of putting all of your villagers immediately onto sheep. Sheep are going to be important here in this very, very, very early stage because sheep will contribute to your Hunter's Boon. Hunter's Boon is, of course, the unique mechanic for the Rus, wherein if they kill any animal, sheep, wolf, deer, boar, they'll get gold for it. And as they accrue bounty or gold, this will push them through tiers 1, 2, and 3 of the Hunter's Boon, which will increase the rate in which their villagers will gather and the amount in which their hunting cabins will generate gold. So from here, the building order gets different. Rather than trying to jump onto gold production first, you're actually going to make a lumber camp, and then after you make a lumber camp, you make a hunter's cabin. The hunter's cabin is going to generate gold for you passively, depending upon how many trees you build it around. So a denser a denser forest is going to be better for the hunting cabin than just in the middle of nowhere, because it won't benefit you if it's not against any trees. Now, as soon as you make that hunter's cabin, make 2 more scouts. This is the big change here. You're not going to make any gold production in the first stage. You're going to take your scouts and you're going to go hunt deer. Deer will give you 10 gold per. And the first tier of the Hunter's Boon is at 100 gold. So you can see that that's actually very easy to get because you're just going to take your scout. You're going to go over and you're just going to kill the deer that are closest to you. And then, it can be nice as kind of like a nice little competitive play to go find your opponent's base and then kill his deer. But honestly, just kill any deer you find immediately just so that you get to 200 gold fast so you can jump up to the second age. Now, killing these deer, unlike previous Age of Empires, they're not going to decay, but you'll be able to pull them back to your base later, so don't really worry about that. And you can kind of rapid fire your scouts by scooting and shooting. So you'll right click the deer, move this, he'll shoot, move the scout, shoot again. Like every time they move, you can basically just kind of like inch them forward as they shoot, and you'll basically shoot rapid fire. So once you've done that, you've set up your scouts getting all of your deers killed. You've got a really strong lumber economy, and you've got a food economy coming in from all of your villagers that are harvesting any sheep, because remember, your scouts are going to find sheep. You can then make your second age building. Now, in my Rus guide, I had said that the Kremlin is a really strong choice, and I still think it is. Kremlin is a good choice if you are playing very defensively. But the other option here, the Golden Gate, is really, really good for the Rus because it allows you to tech up very quickly without actually having to waste any resources, and you get a nice favorable trade market. So you go ahead and you make that building as your second age building, which will allow you to kind of get a nice little jump in your resources. Now, some things you're going to have to do as you jump into that second age are actually making some gold economy. You want to set that up as soon as possible. You want to make a mining camp. Even you could do it as your as your villagers are building into the second age if you want, but waiting until you get into the second age is just fine as well. And then once you have that Golden Gate, you can actually just go ahead and dump a ton of gold and buy a ton of stone. And the reason behind that is you can then build a second town center. The town center costs 400 wood and 300 stone. So if you use this gold resource you've accrued, you can then dump it into stone as fast as possible and make a second town center. This will boost your economy very quickly. That is a route you can take. Don't feel like you have to do it. Another route is, of course, producing 2 or 3 stables with a barracks to support them and making early knights. I'm sorry, not a barracks to support them, an archery range to support them. A very similar tactic that you would pull with the French. This is very dependent upon the opponent you're playing and their level of aggression. If they're really pushing against you hard, then maybe you don't go all the way with the stables and the archery range. You just do whatever is going to counter them while you tech hard into a second town center. Or maybe, if they're playing more passively, you can go ahead and go into that early night rush and try and mess up their econ. Basically, after that second age, after you jumped into it, you've set up your gold economy because that's important, right? You didn't have it before the second age. Now you need it. You can decide if you want to jump into a second town center immediately. Getting that second town center up is going to allow you to produce villagers, which is going to make your economy boom in such a wild way. Or you can get aggressive, go into a stable, an archery range, whatever it is that's going to counter the way your opponent's playing and whatever their civilization is. But that's your kind of early setup here for the Rus. So the Delhi Sultanate are another faction that is extremely unique in its early starting point. And you want to make a mill as fast as possible because this is going to increase the berry yield of any berries around you, but mainly it's going to have to do with your technology. So after you get a mill constructed, you want to make a house and a lumber camp. All three of these things, we already know why we need them as far as their resources go, but you want to get these things going as fast as possible and not go as sheep immediately because of the berry yield and getting access to technologies. For the Delhi Sultanate, each and every technology is free. It just takes a long time to, build up. So once you've made these 3 buildings and you've started their respective technologies as soon as possible, go ahead and make a mosque. The mosque will come with a monk immediately, and this allows you to start boosting the rate in which you can research things. And it creates a nice big gold aura around everything that you can start to build off of. Only certain buildings will increase this aura, such as military buildings, blacksmiths, such like that, but making houses or making even markets will not increase this aura. And this aura is important because, like I said, the Delhi Sultanate gets free research. So as you make these production buildings, the lumber camp, the mill, you then want to make your mining camp now to get your mining economy online. I know it seems like you're really going to tech up late, but it's not going to be that much further behind your opponent because you'll be able to take off so much faster as long as you're constantly making research. Any building that's got research, as soon as that building is made, make the research. Unless, of course, it's a military building or a town center where you want to have unit production being your top priority. So once you get enough wood to make a mining camp, make that because you're going to suck up all of your wood through the other buildings. And from there, it's just a matter of getting to your normal 400 food and 200 gold. So once you actually get that, you want to make the first landmark, Dome of the Faith. This is huge because it's going to reduce the cost of your scholars. Now, why that's important is that in your first mosque, you're probably already working on your scholar research, and that's important. You do want to work on that, like I said. But the Dome of the Faith is going to allow you to make 2 more scholars at a cheap price point because your very first mosque comes with a scholar already. Your second mosque, which you'll also want to make, will not come with a scholar. So this allows you to keep working on these scholar researches while you're making more scholars to boost your research rate. And it will be substantial once you get 2 full mosques online. You'll go from a research taking something like 7 minutes to taking just under 3. So it's a very huge boon to you as long as it's in that gold aura that I've talked about. Gold aura is the best term for me to think of it. But once you advance to the second age, again, you want to make sure everything that has had a technology that you could not take advantage of, like a mining camp, start its technology immediately. It's free, might as well do it. And if you decide, hey, you know, I want to do a different technology instead, any progress you've made towards a technology is not lost. If you just cancel it and then jump back to it, you'll still have that percentage completion already attached to the technology. And then in the second age, what I'd say is jump into an archery range because you want to get access to war elephants. And Delhi Sultanate is a faction that even can sometimes benefit from multiple blacksmiths. I really wouldn't focus on it. One is going to be just enough. Just make sure you make all the technologies. But if you really want a hard tech and some special technologies, go ahead and go for it. And then once you get on that second age, make the archery range. Try to work towards getting war elephants quickly if you can. Getting those off the ground is going to be huge, but you're going to be kind of reacting to the way that your opponent plays, as you do with all civilizations. In addition to that too, it can't hurt to get access to a town center quickly coming into your third age and go from there. As I've said, just focus on what your opponent's doing, how to counter that, and the proper units that you'll need. Another big berry faction is the Abbasids, and the way I'd play this is very similar to the Delhi Sultanate, and I'd want to make a mill in the starting portion of the game, and take your other villagers and just go ahead and put them on the sheep that you have right next to your town center. You could probably actually even do this with the Delhi Sultanate. Maybe this is probably the more efficient way to do it, but as that mill's being built, you can then have them swap over from the food resource of the sheep over to the berries, and then from there it's just standard fare. Make your lumber camp, make your mining camp, and you're good to go. Now what you will notice with the Abbasids, of course, is their golden age, the aura that's going to pop up around every single not book, but every single building you make, and just kind of make sure that they're somewhat close together or overlapping. In this initial stage, it's not as crucial because you'll have plenty of chances to connect them using houses or the House of Wisdom itself. So you go ahead and make your 3 big production things: your mill, your wood production, and then your mining camp. And you should have 0 lumber after that. You're just going to put 2 or 3 villagers on your wood production once you get a nice stable amount of food and gold. And if you kind of time it right, and this will just depend upon where those resources are around you, how quickly you've set up your production things around them, everything like that. Like, don't expect this to be right on the dot. I kind of got lucky in this example that it worked out pretty well, but having 6 to 8 on food, and then, 3 or 4 on gold with the rest on lumber allowed me to get 50 lumber to create the House of Wisdom, which produces very fast. And then from there, you're going to push yourself into the second age once you reach your standard fare of the food and gold required. Now from here, you've got wings you can produce, right? And the big, I guess the general consensus in the community right now is just to go from left to right when it comes to those wings. I believe it is economy, then military, then culture, in that order. Then there's your 4th wing. Personally, I definitely find the economy one to be a very big boon. The military one you won't get as much of a benefit from until the 3rd age. So waiting for that one to be in the 3rd age is, I think, very strong. So go with economy. If maybe you have a different tactic though, and you want to go with a different wing, it's fine. I'm just saying if this is your first time really jumping into the Abbasids, go with the economy wing because it allows you to make villagers at a discounted rate, which is very nice because you're going to be producing them the whole entire game. And as soon as you get to your second town center, it's a really nice boon. So from there, you've gone ahead and you've established your House of Wisdom. It's time to start setting up your first golden age, and you need 10 buildings to do that. So start producing some houses. Maybe you have a mining point, like your mining camp is pretty far away from your town center. Just make an outpost next to it, but see if you can try to do it in a way that connects the rest of the buildings that you're working with. Hopefully your mining camp isn't too far away from the main thing so it's easy to connect. And then once you've actually hit the second age, you should be close to getting your first golden age by making more houses, making the barracks or the archery range, whatever it is, within range of your thing to boost your golden age. But I think that a nice tactic, and this is a personal one, and it's going to also depend upon your matchup, is going with 2 archery ranges right out the gate. This will get you access to camel archers, which are going to do very well in fighting pretty much everything else because they're going to be pretty mobile and they're going to reduce the effectiveness of enemy cavalry. So if you're playing against, say, the French, go camel archers, and with spearmen, you can kind of really help counter any royal knight play. Now, as you progress into the later ages, you'll of course take different setups and so on and so forth, but this should be a really good way to kind of get you going with Abbasids and make sure you get to that first golden age as well as your second age, the feudal age, as fast as possible. Our second to last civilization, the Chinese, is actually in a very weird place right now. So you have the ability as the Chinese to progress through multiple dynasties, which gives you access to all sorts of cool, fun buildings and units. But unfortunately, the beginning portion of the Chinese is somewhat turtly. You really want to play a very defensive game. So what you're going to do is pretty much the same standard fare, right? You're going to go ahead after your villagers. You're going to make, your sheep. You're going to make a house. You're going to make a lumber camp, and you're going to make a mining post. Those are the big things. Now, the Chinese also have the ability to produce an imperial official. And the imperial official's got 2 big abilities. Number 1, it's going to be able to gather not tax resource, but it's going to be able to gather tax from buildings that produce units that are drop-off points, trade places, research facilities. Everything can pretty much generate tax. The imperial official is going to go ahead and grab that tax and bring it back to your town center, providing you with a passive gold income. The nice thing too is that he'll be able to pretty much do this in chunks of 30 or 40 depending on your research rate. I think it's 30 to begin with, and you can make it 40. And you're limited to 4 of these guys. The other benefit that they can do is they can increase the yield of anything that is dropped off at a resource point by 20%. So you'd think, hey, you know what? I'm going to go hard with these guys in the beginning. While there is a tactic to do that, I am not going to go through that one because I'm not very good at it, to be totally honest with you. What you really want to do is just play the Chinese like you would any other faction all the way up to the start of the second age. You have to remember their villagers produce faster and their villagers can also build faster. So you can actually have less builders on a landmark progressing to the next age. So focusing on food, focusing on wood production, and focusing primarily, of course, on gold as well are going to be the things that you really want to do. Once you get to a point, though, when you're ready to jump into that second age, you have a lot of good food production online with 6 to 8 people. You got your 4 people on your gold. You can make an imperial official before that second age. Feel free to do so. But in choosing your landmark and going to the second age, you've got 2 different choices. And again, it just kind of comes down to how you want to play your the faction itself and what you're against. I personally always go with the fortress because I think it's a really great way to stay defensive, and it can curb any kind of really aggressive heavy knight or horseman push from the Mongol, the Rus, or the French. You can also go with the Imperial Academy if you want to boost up your tax income. But really, honestly, since you are playing as the Chinese, you have the ability to make that building after you've progressed into the second age. And if you tech slower into ages, it's okay. The fact that you can actually produce 2 buildings means that you're probably going to go a little bit slower. But the I think the second dynasty is Yang Dynasty, is one, or Yuan Dynasty, I believe. The number 2 dynasty is a strong one to jump into because it's going to get you access to some bonuses for your villagers and your first unique unit. Jumping into that one a little bit later in the second age is not too big of an issue, but you're going to find that because you can increase the yield of your camps and you have a passive gold income from your imperial officials, you don't need to spend as much time exclusively farming gold. You can actually start to split this into stone, and that's a good thing because in the second age, well, even in the first, if you had the resources, building outposts is pretty crucial to the defensive capabilities of the Chinese. They have this ability to make hand cannon slits in their outposts, which is a huge deterrent to a lot of early rushing. Because the Chinese play so defensively in the beginning, they can use stuff like their fortress landmark or these outposts to really hold the ground that they take, allowing you to tech into a second town center very quick in your playthrough. I think all in said, this example I'm showing you is about 9 minutes, and I went through a pretty good economy and I made a second town center very quickly. The fortress landmark, place it defensively, place it around something that your town center doesn't quite cover defensively with its arrows, or put it towards something that you're going to want to later start harvesting with a second town center or an expansion mining outpost, whatever it is. So that's really how to play the Chinese right now in a quick little build order in the first, second age. Unfortunately, the Chinese, from the general kind of community consensus right now, is that the Chinese have a very funky kind of build order. And so it's really kind of comes down very dependently upon what you're facing and what you are comfortable with. If you really feel that you can deal with the aggression, go really hard into teching heavy and trying to get aggression back out. But the majority of people tend to typically go with 2 or 3 officials in the second age, and then go with the defensive start to get stronger in the third and fourth age. Last but not least is the Mongols, and probably the one that is the most exotic of all of the civilization's starting build order. So some first things you want to do is immediately make an uvu with one of your villagers on the closest stone mine. Take the rest of your villagers and put them on some trees, and then have your town center pop up in between 2 resource nodes. Ideally, this would be gold and trees. And you should have the town center closest to the trees. That way you can build a gur next to the gold mine, and you can have all of your guys just go ahead and start farming sheep and farming wood. The big thing to know with Mongols is that their resource buildings cost 100 wood versus most everyone else's like 50 or 25 depending upon the faction. So this is going to be double your wood cost to do this. So you basically kind of offset this by making your town center start next to one of 2 resources, so that you can basically use that town center as a drop off point. Then you use the gur to drop off from there. And right after that, it's pretty much standard fare. Have your scout, especially your Khan, go and find more sheep, because sheep are going to be a huge central point of your early food production. And it's just going to be a matter of generating 100 more wood, make a gur next to the gold deposit, and then start harvesting gold so that you can start to tech up into the second age. It's a pretty straightforward little ditty here, but the one thing to know is Mongolians are extremely modular, and that they can pop into any kind of tactic or any kind of special build order you have in mind, even starting in the first age. There's a very popular build order that really kind of uses the first age's ability, the Mongolians' ability to produce horsemen in the first age to get some early aggression out right in that first age. And then that can then lead to your opponent either turtling or matching that aggression in their subsequent second age. This would then dictate how your landmarks go. I've just gone with a very standard, very easy build order here, wherein I just simply progress to the second age and we go with the market landmark. And this is important for the Mongolians because they get so much benefit from trade outside of just gold. They get all sorts of resources. Now, you're probably wondering, when do I use the uvu's special ability to upgrade the production of what's coming out and the research of what's coming out of my buildings? Well, remember, everything the Mongolian army can move, right? It can kind of uproot and then move to wherever you need it to. So that's really nice. So the gur can just be created wherever, and then when you exhaust an ore deposit, you can go ahead and move it. So what you want to do is make your market, especially that landmark market, in the uvu, because it allows you to produce 2 traders. Your Khan should hopefully have found the trading port or point by the time you have that market created, so you can make 2 traders and have them immediately start setting up your trade economy, which is very strong for the Mongolians. Next, you want to produce archery ranges in the range of the uvu for the Manjadai or Mangadai, I can't remember how it's pronounced, because then you'll be able to double produce those horse archers quickly, giving you a lot of early aggression. And again, just put any kind of military building in the range of that uvu, especially in this early stage. As you progress on, you maybe want to squeeze a gur in there or a pasture or something like that to get the special research benefits of it. But in this early stage, definitely want to use the uvu to help out with your military production as much as possible. So hopefully this helps you out in the Mongolians. I'm going to expand on this in the Mongolian faction video we do, because there are so many different variations and stuff like that to this faction. This is just kind of an easy to understand, fast build order for them. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. So hopefully this helps you out in figuring out some early build orders for every faction. Remember guys, this is not the most optimal way to build every single faction out. There are certain tactics that will require certain build orders and everything of the sort. This is mainly aimed at, hey, if you're struggling with getting off the ground in a specific faction, this video is going to be the one that just kind of maybe gives you a little bit of a boost. But as you can see, once you kind of get down the basics of the build order when it comes to the villager production, making a house, and making your resource drop off points, it's the same thing for every single faction with little tweaks here and there. So if you have any questions, or maybe you want to recommend a different build order that really goes through a whole different tactic, please by all means let it be known in the comment section below. I try to disseminate as much information out to the community as I can. If you want to find out some more other resources for more build orders, please check out Spirit of the Law, who has an amazing YouTube channel dedicated exclusively to tons of information dumps on Age of Empires 4, and my good friend Turin, who has been doing a lot of competitive multiplayer in Age of Empires. You can watch some of those games to get a sense for how, that top tier of Age of Empires player approaches build orders for specific factions. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, comment, and/or subscribe if you enjoyed the video, but have a good one and take care.